There's like the interrogation technique, right? Of like if you're a cop and you're interrogating somebody, you remove no barriers, right? You almost have your like knees touching your knee.
That's part of.
Yeah, there's I forget what the training is called, but there's like a specific training for like how to do interrogations with people, and like part of it is like removing barriers so they don't feel that there's any things separating you. And then it's like all about building rapport with that person. So it's like knee to knee, almost contact, to where you're like super close and building an emotional connection with this person, and then lying to get the
Wait, is this so? Your dad was a cop. Is this how like he would get the truth out of you?
Oh my god, yeah, I'm sure he's just been lying to me my whole life. Man.
He's like,
I love you, son.
Yeah,
bullshit, Dad.
Levels sound pretty good, Charles.
Yeah, you guys are rolling.
We're fucking amazing.
Sound check while you're good.
All right, cool. Before we get started.
Yep.
Anything out there that you don't want to discuss? I feel like I know a lot about you. We got the book. Anything we want to talk about the book? Anything you don't want to talk about?
I don't want to talk about shirtless motivation videos. I'm kidding. I want to talk about that. No, politics, man. Let's keep politics out of this thing.
Thank you. Let's do it.
Please remain seated.
Phillip Barbb, everybody.
There's so many cameras here, man.
So I guess this is yours.
Do I look over here?
I'll look here. And producer.
TV producer, yes.
Reality TV. Author of the book. I feel very like Jimmy Fallon right now. Right. Author of the hit book.
You have to tap it on the desk, too. You have to it's a real thing. It's not just a...
All the reasons I hate my 28-year-old boss. So we'll get into that a little bit later. Yeah. Equinox member.
Yeah, that's the biggest. Else? Yeah, that's the biggest thing.
Michigan State.
Went to Michigan State. Let's see, speaker. Talk to high school kids, college kids, and just general kind of motivational stuff. Talking, a lot of different things. I've been a DJ since I was 17. So that was like, what's funny is when it's so hard to connect the dots looking forward, right? But I can look back and like I started DJing high school dances, proms, birthday parties when I was 17, right? And I look at all that time of like just shit, because I was just interested in it. I didn't know what I was doing, but all of that time of like being comfortable in front of crowds of people and being able to be at a live event and like understanding how an event is supposed to run, being able to feel the energy when like an event is off or something's not going well, or how do you course correct it before it starts feeling like it's going to be a problem.
Maps on the life, doesn't it?
You know what I'm saying? And it's like all of those different things that like now when I look and I'm like, I'll have a moment where I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to go speak. I'm going to go get on stage in front of like, 1,500, 2,000 people. Like, oh, I'm like, you've done that before, bro. Like,
and you will always have something to say.
And it's like, you've been doing it for a long time, or it's like, I'll get on set and I'm like, oh man, like what if this is the one that like, everyone figures out that I don't know what I'm doing. It's like, no, bro, you've been doing this since you were a kid, bro. Like, and it's like, it's just so interesting how those things start to play out in our lives. And you just can't always, you can't always like have some grand scheme that's here's how it's going to be and plot out as much as I'm a planner and I want to be like step A, step B, step C. Like,
I think it's important for people to hear you say that, someone who's been very successful in these different fields, to understand that those thoughts still creep up. Right. So like,
all the time.
And that's the thing is that, especially, I talk about this in producing a lot, like what can go wrong will go wrong. And no matter what happens, like you always get it done. And if something happens where there's a flaw in whatever the case or whatever stage you are in your career, you learn so much that it never happens again. Yeah. Or you're able to make a better decision later on. So I think it's really interesting because I say this to a lot of people that I'll consult with social media, because they're like, well, nobody fucking cares if I put this out. Why should I even put this out? I'm like, do you understand that? And a lot of times my voice will come up in their heads, but I'm like, even before I put something out, I question myself sometimes. I'm like, nobody wants to hear this. Who cares if? And then that becomes the one that like people are saving and sharing. I'm like, we have to talk ourselves out of that a lot. So it's interesting to hear you say that you have those thoughts too.
Because man, I think especially from a creative standpoint, right? There's always those moments where you're like, is anyone going to like my art? Is anyone going to like what I have to say? Like, is my stuff worthy? Like that's part of the drive that makes us want to be creative and want to, so it is. I think a lot of times we just go back and forth with that crazy brain, that tells us that, oh, you haven't done enough, or what you did. We were joking about it even before we jumped on the podcast about the book and how, I wrote the book And I actually can't, it's like I couldn't appreciate that I wrote the book until I got far enough away from writing the book that you're like, oh no, that is cool. Because I remember there were so many times before I even thought of writing a book. You'd meet someone and you'd be like, dude, you wrote a book? Like, that's awesome. Like, that's crazy. And you didn't be like, well, how many books did you sell, or how much money did you make from it? Who was the publishing deal? How did you, like, you just go, dude, that's awesome that you like thought you wanted to do something and you did it. And then I do it. And then it's like, you look at the, you know, did you sell as many, and what were the amount of hours, and you know, should I have spent those hours doing something else? You do all that craziness to try to diminish, or at least I know for me, I try to, you know, I always will diminish my accomplishments, because it's like, well, I guess if I was able to do it, it must not have been that hard, right?
Why do we?
It's so crazy because we're from Michigan, bro. It's totally a Michigan, dude. It's a Midwest.
Nice guy, help you move type of thing,
dude. It's I always laugh, you know. Like I think there's a lot of us in like Southeast Michigan, and I'm sure it's all over the place, right? It's just the only context I have to say to him. But it's like, you know, I was raised on like work your ass off, shut up. And when your opportunity comes, someone will come and tap you on the shoulder and provide that. Like, you keep working and you do the right thing, you make the right decision, and you stay humble and you don't talk about what you do, and then people will eventually notice. And then you move to LA, and it's very much like the squeaky wheel gets the oil. You better like I need to tell, you know, it's like Fire Festival. I'm going to tell you all the great stuff that I'm going to do, you know, 7 years before I've even done any of it, right?
Exactly.
And, where was I at on this thing with the journey? Oh, so with the book, it's like just one of those things where it's so easy to like kind of like overlook it and diminish it. And it was like coming over here and bringing you a copy today.
Dude, I'm fucking blown away, because I've seen it, and you talked about it before, but being able to actually hold it and look through it, it's like brilliant.
And there's spelling errors in here, man. You know, I spelled a celebrity's name wrong in this thing. I'm not going to tell you. You got to buy the book if you want to figure it out. But no, it's like, and I've, you know, since fixed it. If you order it on Amazon, you're going to get a good version. But I've got these that all got printed in the beginning.
Yeah, you printed my name wrong?
You know, exactly. And it's like, but I think sometimes you just got to do stuff. Like, you know, like when you find, when you get, I never had any ambitions of writing a book. And it really, the way it started for me was I was just writing a lot of like emotional, or not emotional, but well, I guess emotional. It's so sad now. No, it was like a very, you know, motivational content that I was just sending to friends, like text messages that I would send to friends back and forth. Then it was like, dude, you should post these. So I'm posting them on Facebook. It was like, dude, you should have a blog. So then I started doing a blog, you know,
like piecing together a book without even realizing it.
And then it's like I'm writing. And then I start kind of thinking like, man, I think I have like 65% of a book here. And then it was like, but what do I build it around?
Yeah.
And so then the idea for the book was, you know, actually, dude, I wrote, no joke, and I still have it. I wrote the title of the podcast. I wrote the title of the book on a Post-it note. It can't, like, I was like, all the reasons I hate my 28-year-old boss. I was like, if that were a book, what would it be about?
Wow.
And then I was like, ageism in the workplace. You know, I've always kind of been a little obsessed with like, how much money should I have saved by 30? How, you know, where should I be? What should my investment account be? How many women are like, you know, all the stupid stuff that like our brains do. And I'd always been so obsessed with age. And then I started looking at a lot of the information and things that I had been reading and been studying and been, you know, just kind of writing about. And I was like, I think this could definitely be like a business self-help book for people that are dealing with, you know, working with a lot of younger people in the workforce. Yeah. You know, we're at a stage in life where like, you know, we've got like 5 generations of people that are all in the workforce. Like it's never really been that way. We've got you've got, you know, people are working later and later because of maybe the finances aren't there. So they have to work a little bit later on into life. They don't have maybe the safety net that they thought they were going to. So you have them staying in. They're part of a different generation of now. You have a new generation of people that everything is so immediate and so quick. And so there's a lot of differences, but the book was definitely really about trying to hone in on like finding a lot of the similarities, identifying the problems that you're having in the workplace, and then trying to take ownership over the stuff that's within your control. Yeah. There's always going to be stuff that's out of our control that we want to blame things on or blah, blah, blah. But it was really about trying to find a book that would be able to speak to people that could help them deal with that, the ageism. And a lot of it is stuff that like ageism is a real problem and, you know, it happens in the workforce and there's discrimination and things like that. But many times the problems that we're facing, we're just like what we talked about earlier, we're creating a lot of the stuff. I'm bringing a lot of my own ego my own insecurities and my own frustrations to the table when I'm actually like, oh, it's just these, you know, these young kids or blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I don't know, man. It was also funny when I'm like, you know, I wrote the book and I was like, I think I came out with it when I was like 34. So I was like, I'm not even that much older than the boss in this thing. But yeah, man, it was a really fun, it was a fun process to go through.
Yeah. And that's what I'm seeing with a lot of these people that we're talking to that are maybe, you know, late 40s, 50s, even 60s, even 70s now. Some of our newer clients that are like, okay, I'm down to do this TikTok thing. Like, what do I got to do? And then learning a new program to then edit. Because for so long, and especially the older demographic would be like the older generation, they would be like, you know, can't teach a old dog new tricks type of mentality. But now I think we're at a place where everyone has access to the internet. So they're like, well, I either have to like pay somebody to do this stuff and take advantage of these great opportunities that are out there, or I need to learn it myself. So even working, you know, later into those years, and then respecting the younger generation to say like, okay, what are they doing right, and how can I learn from that? And
yeah, I think so much of things, and it sounds like such a cheesy answer, but it comes to having a general appreciation and respect for the person that's sitting across from the table from you. Whether they are your boss, whether there's, you know, a subordinate, whether whoever they are, is being able to have, like, we all are going to have different skills, and we're all going to have different information that where we excel or where we're better at, right? But we're all important, right? Like you can't have 7 Michael Jordans on the team. You know, you got to have the Jordan, you got to have the Pippen, you got to have the Robin. You got to have the people that have different skills in what they're good at coming together to be able to build. And it's like, that's how we grow the best, when we're able to appreciate the people that we're working with for what they're skilled at. And then also being able to look at people and not diminishing them into, oh, well, this person is just this way, and that's, oh, they're like that. Or this, oh, yeah, they're an old dog. They can't do new tricks, right? And they're so focused about this one thing. It's like, just see people for people.
Yeah.
You know, have a moment where we actually are like, how do I connect with people? How do I, you know, have empathy for somebody? And I think sometimes that gets, we are all running fast, right? We are all running. Like everything moves so fast, dude. Like information's fast, news is fast. Like we're always trying to catch up. And in that moment and in that shuffle, we can just lose sight of the fact that like, you're a dude, man, who's here, who has a podcast, and you've got producing, and you're running a business, and with that comes all the insecurities and the frustrations and the excitements and the lows and the, I don't know if this is where it's going. Is this really what I want to be doing? All of that. And like all of that is what makes us who we are.
Yeah.
Not just like this one, you know, the one sentence on your resume, you know, or your one log line of who you are as a person. So I think it's like being able to like step back and appreciate who people are. And also like, dude, we're not going to love everybody. You know, like I tell this to, even when I speak at high schools, you know, because a lot of times I'll go in and speak about mental health and, you know, you're not going to like everyone, dude.
Yeah.
Like not everyone is going to be your best friend. Like you're not going to go to a high school of 3,000 kids and be friends with everyone. It's just not going to happen. But you don't got to be a dick. You don't got to be a jerk. You don't have to be rude to people. You don't have to try to stomp on people. We can be able to say like, look, man, all right, maybe you're not my like biggest cup of tea. I'm not going to invite you over to come and hang with my homies and me and smoke cigars, right? But I can appreciate that like at your core, you're trying to do a good job.
Yeah.
You know, at your very least, you don't want to get fired, right? Like
Yeah.
at your very least, people are going to like give an effort. And I think when we can just have a little bit more of like an appreciation for people, understand that like, I don't think that you got up today with the specific thing of trying to piss me off and ruin my day.
Yeah.
You know? And so I think when we can give people that benefit of the doubt, it gives us an opportunity to just connect with people more and just have a better environment to work in, to grow in, to learn in.
Yeah, it makes me think of something from acting class, hearing like, 'cause in acting, you can never judge your character, right? And a lot of times, or you had a coach that made a statement that everybody thinks that they're a good person. Even a serial killer or something like that, they're able to justify it or think of it, whatever. So even like, you know, taking away from maybe serial killers and, you know, murders and stuff like that. But do you think that's true, that everybody deep down thinks that they're a great person and maybe are doing the best they can?
Man, we could get deep on that. I think, I actually think a lot of people, and this is coming from the recovery background, and I think a lot of people have a lot of self-hatred, man. And I don't think it's, and Yeah, I didn't think we would talk about this today. I think a lot of people are struggling with low grade or high grade levels of not being good enough, not being worth anything, not feeling worthy of love. And I think that when you feel those things, you're not always aware of them, right? And a lot of that stuff starts from when we're young, right? Like the relationships that we had, the relationships that we have with success, with when we felt valued versus when we didn't feel valued. And I think at our core, I think people, I guess to answer your question, I think people try to do their best. I really do. And I think people do a lot better than they give themselves credit for. I think that most people are really great people, and they have a lot of amazing attributes, and they have a lot to give from, work, from love, from life, from support. I think we do a pretty good job, but there's that little piece of us that doesn't really believe it. It's part of the same piece that makes me want to diminish my accomplishment or make me feel like, oh, well, I did it, so it must not be that good. That part of me that thinks like great things are for other people, not for me. So so if I'm not great, there must be something wrong. Maybe I'm not that good of a person. Like, okay, but I guess I gotta put on a smile and go to work on Monday, right?
Yeah.
And I think that that's actually something that I see a lot. For me, I've been kind of, not to switch gears, but I'm coming up on, I've been sober for 15 years at the end of this month.
Congratulations.
And thanks, man.
That's huge.
And but I think that was like a big part of my thing was always kind of growing up and having a little bit of that feeling of like, I hung out with a lot of older kids when I was coming up in Metro Detroit. And, it was always like, am I good enough? Am I funny enough? Am I smart enough to kick it I want to hang with the kids on the block, like the big dudes, right?
Yeah.
And then, so you're always kind of like, you're always looking to them for like, how, like, what gets a positive reaction from people I respect, right? And like now, I'm 37. I could care what a 16-year-old kid thinks, bro. But when you're 7, 8, 9, like,
that's all there is. You can't see past that.
Your parents don't know. Your parents aren't cool. These are the cool kids that you want to show out for.
Yeah, you need that approval.
So you got to prove. And so you start to learn, like, how do I need to be? And then for me, so I'm dealing with that as a kid with, who my friends are. Then I had a mother who was involved in school board in the local area. My dad was a cop, right? So now I've got kind of this like external, like, got to be the good kid, got to do well in school, got to be the cop's kid. And these were never things that were, and this is where it gets crazy. These weren't things that were put on me or pressured on me from my parents. This was all internal stuff that I did because I wanted to be
the golden child.
Dude,
same.
I wanted to be the golden child, bro. And so you start building these things. And for me, it was like, I'm going through school and playing sports, need to be the best one, have to be got to be first in the, want to be the captain of the team. Want to be the best one, want to score the touchdowns, want to, like, all that. One time, dude, I was in like Little League baseball and I had a one-man triple play.
A one-man triple? Were you playing third base?
I was playing.
Oh, wait, first?
Bro, I was like pitcher, bro. Like, I literally caught the ball, tagged a dude, and then instead of throwing the ball,
you ran to first?
Ran. Because I have to do it all myself, and I don't trust anyone. Dude,
how old were you then? It was literally probably like
6,
yeah,
7, and I still have the ball. It's with me. No, I'm kidding. But it was like, so I had that. So I'm dealing with.
But you also at that time you didn't realize you were dealing with this at this time.
Of course not.
Yeah.
I just think I'm
7, especially.
Yeah, right.
But like, as growing up, being the golden child, like,
no, dude. Yeah, you're going through and you're living life and you're
doing
you're trying
the best you can,
doing the best you can, right? And you're trying to get good grades and you're trying to and because you're building this framework of what you're understanding life to be at those ages, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, who are you to question any of it? Because you're a kid, you don't know any better. So you're building all this understanding of life, and so I'm going through and like, get into middle school, start, you're dealing with the normal insecurities of what's going on in life, but you're also, it's not like I was like, wasn't super emotional, wasn't really, I was like, had a good family, had a lot of love in the household, right? What ended up happening for me was like when I was 11, I started drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happened and why I loved drinking so much was you know, before that, I was always really concerned about like being the golden child, right? How would the golden child behave? How would the cop's kid behave? What do I need to do? What do I need to do? How is Phil supposed to behave? And then I drank, and I was just here. I was just present. I wasn't thinking about anything.
What were you drinking?
Just drinking alcohol,
like
beers,
yeah,
liquor, shots, whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, I was 11, but I was hanging out with a lot of older kids, right? So you'd have, dude. I mean, I remember one time being at a party and it was like a jug, no joke, bro. It was like a milk carton of orange juice, or an orange carton, an orange thing, and it was just like dumped a bottle of liquor into it, and you're just like handing it around the party, and everyone's drinking it, and it's like, and it disappeared. That voice, that constant like, are you good enough?
Overly critical.
It was gone, man. And it was like, that's what I became addicted to, was the escape from the constant barrage of my brain telling me that I wasn't good enough, that you need to be thinking, but like, what do you do? It was this constant driving thing. And when I drank, that was where it disappeared. So then, you know, I'm drinking at 11, 12, 13. I'm starting to like go, you know, weekend getaways, doing different things. And that's starting to build. The big thing that ends up happening, so when I'm 14 years old, mother wasn't feeling well, went to the hospital, thought she had gallstones. They do the test, comes back, boom, she's got cancer, right? So I'm 14, and we do like, I'm a freshman in high school, and then 11-month battle, chemo, the whole thing, you know, go through the whole thing, you're optimistic, and then just boom, it starts getting bad. December gets bad. January 3rd, she passes away. So 11 months from the time that we found out she had cancer until that, she's gone, right? So now it was exactly 1 week before my 15th birthday. So or 16th birthday. So I'm like 15, and like, so now when you look at it from a psychology standpoint, right? Like, you've got a kid who's already dealing with all these kind of like self-love, self-issues, self-worth things, starting to dabble with using substances to help alleviate that. Now you throw on the grief and the loss of a parent.
Not wanting to feel those pains.
And dude, you know what I'm saying? And it was like, I was smart enough I created like rehearsed vulnerability. I learned how to tell you enough about how I was feeling so that it didn't have red flags, right? I knew I couldn't completely shut down, because then it's like, then your people are like, yo, we got to watch out for Phil. What's he doing? But you say all the right things. You know, you be the golden child. How would the golden child behave? You would be sad and upset and frustrated, but you would also have an appreciation of life. And, you know, I just remember the good memories that we had. And you know, I just have to focus on that. And like, you know, life is difficult, and these things happen. And, you know, there's a lot of tragedy all across the world. And I'm saying all of these things, which are complete bullshit, because they're all logical, but they're not helping me out at all emotionally. So I'm going to say all the things and do all the things, and so that you won't leave me alone. And then the first chance I get to escape, bro, I'm going to drink, and I'm going to get wild, and I want to break shit. I want to absolutely, like, it was like, you know, I wanted to hook up.
You fighting too?
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, I want to either break shit, fight, or I want to hook or find a girl to hook up with. And that was it. I wanted to be Stifler in the worst way, bro. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, that, you know, where I got super lucky, and I'll save the long drawn out story. You know, 18 years old, crashed my car in Detroit. 19 years old, got arrested at Michigan State for minor possession. 20, got arrested again. Still doing well in school, like on the dean's list at Michigan State. Finished college in 3.5 years, right? So I'm doing so I'm just this kid that is all focused on like, look at what I can do, but ignoring all the emotional baggage that I had underneath. So then I eventually get to a place, graduate Michigan State, get ready to move out to LA, and then boom, got hit for a DUI in the town I grew up in, where my dad was a retired acting police chief, by the newest cop on the force who didn't recognize the last name, dude.
Which is great.
Say amazing, right? And
at the time, fucking sucked.
Terrible. Yeah, totally.
What the hell? Yeah.
And but it was like that. I went through that whole thing, and then I was able to start getting into recovery. I got into AA. I got sober.
While you're still in Michigan?
While I was still in Michigan. Yeah. So that I was getting ready to move to LA 11 days before that was when I got the DUI. Put me up. I had to like stay in Michigan. I had to do all the court stuff and I was on probation and blah, blah, blah. And, which that's a blessing, dude. I would have came to LA and been a mess, bro.
Yeah.
I would have got out here and, in my head, I was like, well, once I get to LA, maybe I'll calm down on the partying because I'm really focused on my career.
You get a fresh start.
You're right. Yeah. And it would have been like, I would have.
Not here.
No.
I
Dude,
was so naive. Yeah. You get out here at that age. I remember when all my friends started doing coke back in Detroit. After I had just moved away, then I heard all my good friends that like were the good guys that wouldn't do that kind of stuff. I needed to go back to Michigan to save everybody.
Yeah.
I didn't realize we used to go to Hyde every Monday. I had moved out here, started working out with a good friend of mine at the time, and I didn't realize I was walking in with the drug dealer every fucking Monday night. Dude. I was so naive at 20, 21 years old, coming from Michigan, and that's just
dude. It's and the crazy thing, man, is just like I'm so happy. I'm so happy that I got sober at 22, man, and I'm so happy for it. But it's not without saying, it'd be real easy to be like, and then I got sober and like life just started to magically change and it was all amazing and just like that. And I think too often in mental health circles, when you're struggling, we expect that the answer is immediate. We expect that one therapy session is going to be immediate, or we think that getting sober is going to solve all of your problems. And like, I got sober. It took me over 4.5 years before I ever did the steps, before I got a sponsor. I was at a meeting, and I tell this story all the time because I absolutely love this. There was a part of me when I was drinking that, and I don't know if you can relate to this or anyone watching can relate, but there was a part of me that had built this facade and this exterior of what I let you see, but all I really wanted to do was for you to know the pain I was in. I wanted to be seen for how I felt. I wanted somebody to truly see me.
Yeah.
Not for what I was presenting, but I didn't have the confidence to show you that. But I wish someone, dude, I used to drink and drive and do things so destructive because I wanted to get caught. There was a part of me that wanted people to know that like, I am not okay, dude. Like I'm not okay.
Wow.
And so I still go to AA meetings and I give my great 2-minute shares and 3-minute shares, and I'm the perfect little AA sober young person. Look at me.
Yeah.
I got it young, and I'm at a meeting in the Valley, and I give my little great share, and a guy walks up to me, big dude, bald head, walks up to me and he goes, "Hey man, my name is Michael, and nice to meet you. Hey, I heard your share. I just want to let you know, I think you're absolutely full of shit."
Wow.
He goes, "You're at 4.5 years, man. 5 years is a dangerous time in sobriety. Quit messing around. Get a sponsor, do the steps, knock it off." And I asked him to be my sponsor.
Wow.
And
right away you knew? Or did you have to, was there an ego at all attached initially? Dude, you were ready for it?
Like, it makes me a little emotional because I think it was like, he saw me for the broken 16-year-old. He didn't see me as the confident, cocky kid, 25-year-old working in TV, or 26-year-old working at TV who's got it figured out and I got all this. He saw past it and really saw me, and he had the courage to speak it. Because he could have just walked out of the room, man.
Yeah.
He could have looked at me and been like, "This fucking kid. He's gonna have some problems."
Yeah.
And we do that all the time, man. We do it all the time. We stay silent all the time when we see somebody acting up, or we see somebody acting or saying something weird, and you're like, "Oh, that guy's kind of a douche."
Yeah.
Right? But this guy, he had so much character that I don't even know why he did it, but he walked up and he said it to me, and it was like, dude, like that's what I had been looking for, was for someone to truly see that. And bro, I sat with him. I did my step work with him. I shared with that man things that I was ashamed of, things I had never told anybody else in my entire life, things that happened to me when it was like 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, things that were.
You finally had somebody you could turn to, the 16-year-old that was looking for something out there, somebody to see them at that.
Dude, man, and all I can think of right now, and like I feel like this podcast right now is so much for me and not for bless anyone that's listening. I hope you guys are enjoying it, but like we talk so much about, like, even with the book, right? Like something that I did that I was so easy to like second guess and be like, it's just a book. It ain't the big, like whatever. And there's an alternative universe where Phil didn't do the steps and didn't get a sponsor and didn't get sober and is still there. Oh, dude. There's a world where I am still that kid with all of that pain operating behind every decision I'm making. There's a 37-year-old Phil somewhere that hasn't had any healing from his life yet.
That he's been searching for someone to see that.
Dude.
Maybe.
And I'm so, I'm so filled with just absolute gratitude right now and that's the power of a stranger, man. Like, that's the power of that man did not know me.
Yeah.
That is one man who made a decision as an absolute stranger that had a massive change in the trajectory of my life. And he's a great man, but there's nothing special about him. There's nothing that he has inside of him that you don't have inside of you, that I don't have inside of me, that no one at home doesn't have inside of them. We all have the ability, if we choose to accept responsibility, and if we choose to get out of our own way, if we choose to stop making life all about our careers or what we make or how much money, or like I had a thought earlier today. It's like, dude, we have, right? You have your podcast. You have people that look up to you, that influence you. We met on a social platform speaking. Like, we have influence, and it might not be, the 3.2 million followers that follow you because you play video games, right? But we have an ability to have influence with people, right? And so often I think we can get in a place where it's like, well, I need more authority, or I need more money, or I need a bigger resume. We got to knock that shit off. Yeah. We will get those things, and that's fine. But we can't keep looking to some future moment where we can finally be the person that can speak truth or speak love or speak encouragement in somebody else's life. Like, we all have that ability today.
Yeah. Wow.
And I think that is, I think it's something that's important that, we joked, right? You could tell a man something once, but he needs to be constantly reminded. Mm-hmm. In today, dude, I'm so grateful for you asking me to be here today, man, because this was like so much for, I'm gonna cancel my therapist for the week.
No, but that's why I love these kind of conversations. These are the ones that need to be had, that I love hearing and learning from and allowing other people to, like, that's the whole reason for this. And, I wonder, was there a moment that in your sponsor's life that maybe you think allowed him to see that and speak up in that moment? And part two, how does that allow you to see that in other people as you've been navigating since you were 26?
Interesting. I think, one thing with him was, he actually was, he had, once he got sober, he had actually worked in entertainment. Prior to, he'd worked in entertainment. I think he did a lot of like locations work for film. And then he actually left the entertainment industry and started working at a treatment center. And was working at like an inpatient treatment center for people. California is filled with, recovery places and things like that. And so I don't know if it was like him seeing elements of me from that he related to from that entertainment hustle and that entertainment facade and needing that LA lifestyle, if he saw that, or if it was just like he had dealt with a lot of young people, and saw it, and I think that's one thing. I speak about ageism, right? And at times, and there is some truth to, like, and I don't mean this as a knock at all, right? But 16-year-old me didn't have the ability to deal with the stuff I was going through. I didn't know how, right? And I think that there's, there is maturity, obviously, that comes with age, and you learn things as you go through. And I think one of the problems is sometimes I think it's important to teach kids and to treat children as adults at times, But we can never lose sight as adults that they're still a kid.
Yeah.
And they don't have the answers. I think sometimes we can be really hard on them and expect them to know. The thing is, and that this is kind of a little bit of a shift, but this is just a call for all of us that are listening to this that have kids in our lives, right? You hear parents all the time talk about like, well, I shared with my kid and I want my kids to be able to know they can be authentic and they can trust me and they can. So how often do you trust them? How often do you have a conversation with your kids about insecurities that you have or difficult things that you're going through or you went through? How often are we modeling transparency? How often are we modeling authenticity to our children? Because if we're not doing it, how do we imagine them to learn? And if we're not doing it, if they don't feel comfortable getting it from adult, who are they getting it from? They're getting it from their peers, who is another 15-year-old kid who doesn't know shit about mental health, is another 14-year-old, 13-year-old, 16-year-old that is not emotionally developed enough to actually give real help. And I was just talking with a social worker the other day. And she said one of the difficult, and we touched on it a little bit earlier, one of the difficult things right now with kids is they want to have one meeting. They want affirmation in whatever they're experiencing, and they want it to be healed in one meeting. Because what's happening is as adults, we're not always being able to be supportive of the kids, and we're not always allowing them and teaching them along the way how to be authentic and how to share and how to do these things until it gets too late, until they don't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And then they go to their friends and their friends go, yeah, you're totally right. I love you. You're totally right. And so it's just this affirmation game where it's like, you're totally right. You're perfect how you are. You don't need to change. It's like, and so it's great that they have a support system, but that's not what they
It's not
need.
fully realistic.
That's not what they need. They don't need a 16-year-old. I didn't need my friends to have my back in that moment because they didn't know what the hell to say.
They couldn't.
They didn't know what to do. We didn't have answers. I needed a professional. I needed somebody older. I needed somebody to step in and show me. And thankfully I got that through sobriety, right? But I think it's important for us as adults that are around kids, right, and care about this. Look, it's not about airing out your dirty laundry and making the old days seem so great, but it's like, man, kids are dealing with a lot, dude, and they're having these conversations. And if you're not having the conversation with the kids, like, where are they going to have it? They're going to have it with other inexperienced people.
Yeah, it's more confusion.
It's more confusion.
Yeah. And
it's like, we can't bury our heads in the sand. We need to be able to show up. And it's uncomfortable, man. Like, we're not all therapists. We don't all have those degrees to know exactly the right things to say. Sometimes it's just being able to, like, listen with someone or sit with them or hear them out. Because, like, we're in a world where everyone's just talking. You know, us right now on a podcast, we're just talking. You know, it's more information coming in. It's like, let's listen, man. Let's listen. Let's ask some genuine questions.
Yeah, let's actually listen.
Let's actually listen.
It's your experience with your sponsor. I had an experience in the last couple of years. I learned a lot from, which I imagine you learned so much from that, and someone sitting with you and listening to you and all of that. And a friend of mine that we were running his social media had like a meeting and everything. I had a real busy day, and it was back to back, and we did a Zoom call, everything, and he's someone whose career is blowing up. He doesn't have any time. Mm-hmm. We have the meeting, everybody gets on the same page, boom, and I jump to the next thing, and all of a sudden my phone is a FaceTime from him. I'm like, oh, fuck, what's up with this? I look at my phone. Hey, what's up, man? He's like, hey, just wanted to, thanks for the meeting and everything, but just wanted to check on your spirit. And I was like, no, everything's good. He's like, well, I'm sure everything is good, but I just want to check in with you because when we had our meeting, it was nothing bad, but, I saw that you're like probably busy and stressed, and I just want to check on you and make sure you're good. And I was like, holy shit, man. Like, the fact that this busy dude who has so many other things to do saw something in me that maybe I didn't even see because I was just getting so used to staying busy. The stress that's what comes with being an entrepreneur. You're just busy and you figure it out. And I learned so much from that moment. Now I'm able to do that to other people, mm-hmm. and notice if something's not, if I can sense something, at least check in. Why not check in? Totally. And see, because it's just so important.
The old, the fortune teller aspect of that would be, you could probably do that with anyone.
Yeah.
at any moment after
Facts.
any call. Because how are you doing, man? Oh, good, man. Cool. It's all good. Boom. Next topic. Are we though?
I had
Are we?
my maybe second acting coach, Schoolcraft Community College that I went to for half a
Schoolcraft, what's up, dude? Come on.
So I go to Schoolcraft because I'm like, I told after high school, right? I'm like, I fell in love with drama in high school, and I was like, let me go to you have your graduation party. Everybody's asking what the fuck you're doing after high school, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to Wright State University. I'm going to go study, get my bachelor's in fine arts, where my great uncle teaches. But I'm gonna go to Schoolcraft just for a half semester, start doing my generals or whatever you call it. And so I took English 101 and I took an acting class. And the one thing, there's two things I remember from this class. He studied Stanislavski, who's an acting coach or acting teacher years and years ago. But he also, I don't know if it was in the moment that I saw, hey, how you doing? I said, good. And he was like, no, you're not. Like, stopped me in the moment to say, like, how are you actually doing? Why do we even ask each other how we're doing if we're not going to answer it? It's not real. And like, it's like his big first spiel.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can ask anybody that.
Dude, we're stressed, man. Right? We're all fighting something. We all, right? You hear, everyone's got a battle, blah, blah, blah. But like the great thing is, for a lot of us, we think that we have to do that alone, man. And we think that it's our responsibility, or that no one else is going to care, or the fact that, oh, everyone has a battle, so why is my battle important? No, it's people that are religious that are like, well, I believe in God, but why would God care about me? He's got all this other stuff to go on. Like, I don't, it's that idea. It's more of that,
or to think that nobody does it, everybody else has it figured out,
right?
And I'm just doing something.
It's always that diminishing thing. And I think one of the most important, I was at my AA meeting last night, right? And it's, I'm at a meeting with like 37, 38 guys. I go to a lot of men's only meetings, and all men going around the, 20 or 30 guys that get their 2-minute share. They're from ages everywhere from 21, 22 up to 75, right? And they're all going through, and they go around and they share what's going on in their life. And it's like the ups, the downs, the struggles, the frustrations, the wanting to drink, the not wanting to, the dealing with the wife, dealing with this, the work. There's so much stuff, and there's just, and is like anyone there like, all right, man, now let me sit down, and I heard you share, and now I need to tell you all the different. No, we just need sometimes to be in a community and be like, yo, you get it. You get that I'm not okay, and we don't need to sit here, and I don't need a solution for everything, but like, we get it. And like, for me, one of the things that I've learned is how important, especially in LA, man, our community is so important. I know so many dudes and women that are running through LA, running around so solo, dude, right? So alone, and feeling like you need to do it all yourself. Like, dude, I've got like my AA men's group. I have a faith-based men's group. I got my cigar homies that I kick it with all the time, right? Like, I've got my sponsor. I have a sponsee. I have a therapist. I've got a financial advisor. Like, I'm all about having a community built around me, because Phil by himself starts to spiral, right? If I'm not doing the things, if I'm not finding the opportunities for gratitude, if I'm not finding the opportunities to be of service to other people, if I start getting back into my character defects of being so damn selfish and egotistical, which is just the other side of my insecurities as a man and who I am, and I become so obsessed with myself, right? And there's a great quote, like, suffering is the obsession with oneself. Right. And it's like, when I become the center of my world, I'm in a bad spot, dude. Wow. And I don't know where and the thing is, and it's not that like, oh, I'm going to go and drink, or I'm going to start a fight, or I'm going to go do it, or I'm going to burn a house down, or I'm not a terrible dude. Most of us aren't. We're good people. Right. But am I showing up the best way I could? Am I finding joy? Am I finding happiness? Do I have any of the fruits of the spirit? Right. Am I being able to show up for others? And when I'm so focused on me, and I'm not being able to like be around for other people, and that's both. That's allowing people to participate in my life, in all of it. Yeah. Not just the social media, or not just the stuff I want, or not just the shirtless motivational videos, right? Am I allowing other people to participate in my life? Am I giving myself an opportunity to participate with others? am I taking on and giving appreciation for community? Because if I'm not, man, like, it's a fucking lonely road.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing all this, man. I know we're running out of time. Thank you for 20 minutes before the episode to be like, yeah, I'm down to do this, dude. I'm so glad we did too. Cause I was like, oh, can we fit this in? I don't even know if he's going to want to, but like now I feel like we've only just started the conversation.
Yeah.
Now there's so much more that we can talk about too, man. Wow. Thank you so much for all of the insight, being honest and truthful, bringing all that real to the stage, to the project. But yeah, definitely.
Thank you for doing it, man. You know, I appreciate you,
pleasure.
you know, like wanting to have me on and thank anybody that's still, you know, listening and been hanging out with us. Like, thank you guys so much. I'm sorry that my posture is so bad. I'm all hunched over. But no, thank you guys.
We'll change that in post.
Yeah, just fix it in post. You know, give me a red shirt, make it tighter because this one's obviously not tight enough. But no, man, thank you so much for doing this, for having the podcast, for having me on. And dude, it's also just cool to. We've known each other for a couple of years. We never met in person, so this is like rad, man.
And thank God for Clubhouse to introduce us.
Do people still do Clubhouse? I get notifications every now and again.
Yeah.
Still people going ham.
I haven't been on it. It's not as crazy as it was for those like 4 months. That was like wild.
It was like everything. We were on it all the time. I was like at the gym, like I would be and they'd be like, so let me tell you about what you need to do to sell a script. And you want to be like, you ever sell a script? Well, no, but I heard once. There were so many. I won't talk shit.
I won't talk shit. It was like that, but it also gave us a nice strong sense of community within that, meeting a lot of new people.
Yep.
So definitely grateful for that, and yeah, man, looking forward to finding a way that we can work on something together as we're both
man.
creatives in this world. And again, all the reasons I hate my 28-year-old boss. Check this out, Phillip Andrew Barbb.
Yeah, and shout out to Southeast Michigan.
Yeah,
Westland, Melvindale. So some small town kids doing it big, baby.
That's right. No, I love it, man. But yeah, we'll have to have you back on again soon, man. There's so much more I want to talk about and dive into, and so many ways that I relate to that. So a lot of what you said, and I think so many other people will as well.
All right, man. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it, man.
All right, man. So real quick, where can they find you? This is your camera.
What's up, you guys? I'm Phil. Hi. Ooh, yeah, let me rip the shirt off, bro. Instagram at Phillip Andrew LA, phillipbarb.com. And that's it, man. If honestly, and I mean this, if you're still hanging out and you stuck with this thing and obviously, you know, something spoke to you, reach out, you know, let me know if there's any way that, you know, how we could support you, what you got going on. Just let us know what stood out to you. And also just, you know, like and share this, maybe send it to a friend that you think, maybe just listening to it would be, even if just a little segment of it would be helpful for them. We're in this together, and in the same way that, you know, I had that guy that did something out of his care, or just he took an opportunity to speak for me. We all have that opportunity for somebody else. So maybe even just sharing this as a link to somebody might just be a stepping stone that somebody needs towards to bettering their lives. So thank you guys for hanging out with us. Thank you so much for having me on. And till the next one, man, for sure.
Yes, sir. My pleasure, man. Well, I'm not going to even say anything after that because that was brilliant. So thanks again for being on, and we'll see you all next week. Peace.